I'm with Arwen Skinner, the MYP for Carmarthenshire, and Gwenoro Jones, the former MP for Carmarthenshire. Big generational gap, but a lot of experience between the two. So Gwenoro is going to chat with Arwen and offer her, I'm sure, lots of his advice from his long and historic reign as an MP for Carmarthenshire and a political pundit going forward now today as a journalist at 77 years of age. So, croeso, Arwen, croeso, Gwenoro. Arwen, just to start with, can you just tell us how you got involved, how you became elected, what was the process involved, and how did you become an MYP first and foremost?
Well, I started off in Carmarthenshire Youth Council, where I've been for about 2 years now, and they elect every year a new MYP. So for this year, I got voted in.
And who votes you in? Is it the young people? Is it the general public?
For Carmarthenshire, every county does something a little bit different. The members of Carmarthenshire Youth Council vote you in, and they represent the different districts around Carmarthenshire. And
obviously, then you can measure, I guess, what the turnout for that. It is like a mini election. Then is it? Your ballot boxes, and you have your candidates, you have your hustings.
Yeah, but this year, obviously, because of the coronavirus, we had to do it over Zoom. So it was slightly different. So we all sent like a message to a certain person of who we wanted to vote for.
And how much time are you having to commit to this role now? Is it something that has surprised you, that you're ready for? Or is it are you a bit nervous about the role?
Oh, I'm definitely nervous. And especially with times like this now, we're not 100% sure what's going to happen. So I've just been getting in contact with other people who've had like past experiences as MYPs, and just trying to get a grip on what my role is and how I can do it in this current climate.
There's a website and Facebook page that sort of explains kind of what they do, and there's a lot on there. We see these young people standing up at the dispatch box in Parliament and giving some fantastic speeches. That's something, I guess, that's ahead of you. And I'm guessing, just like Gwenoro would have done, you will have to be the ears and voice of your compatriots, basically, the youth of Carmarthenshire and maybe Wales, find out what the issues are and take those to a wider audience, pass that down to your MP. Is that how it works?
Yeah, exactly. And those videos you'd see was from the House of Commons debates. We're the only other group apart from MPs who are allowed to debate in the House of Commons. And we get together once a year. We actually do our finding out different topics through a ballot called Make Your Mark. And it's the biggest ballot in Europe, I believe. And so we get all the different topics and everything, and we meet up together and we discuss them in Leeds, I think, this year.
Yeah, I saw some of that. Knife crime, hate crime, bullying, and so on. Some of the major issues affecting young people across, as you say, not just the UK, but in Europe. You're in for a treat because you've got somebody who's been there and done that, has the T-shirt. So I let Gwenoro ask you a couple of questions now about, and maybe even share some of his experiences that he might want to give you some advice as to, how to conduct yourself or what you should be looking to do in the future. So I'll hand over to Gwenoro for a minute.
Well, hi, Arwen. How are you? You all right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I can say this from just watching you and now, the last couple of minutes. You're a very confident lady. And you know what your views are, I'm quite sure. And you haven't been to Parliament yet, have you?
No, I haven't. We usually do that in November.
November time?
Yeah.
Let's hope that you'll be allowed, isn't it? Otherwise, is it going to be just online then or what? What will happen if you know?
No, we're not 100% sure, but then I don't think anyone is right now. So we have talked together, all the MYPs from Wales, and we're just trying to get something sorted. But obviously, we're in it for the long hauls.
So how are you going to approach it? I remember my first couple of days in Parliament, I was very nervous. I was only 27 myself, quite confident, but still nervous because it is a bit nerve-wracking, especially with people who may be more qualified or older or whatever. What is the limit on the age group, by the way?
18 for the UK Youth Parliament.
Oh, right. So, okay. So how are you going to approach it, you think? When you get into these debates, how are you going to plan it, and how are you going to approach it?
To be honest, I'm just trying to get a grip on it myself. I have actually done debate competitions before, so I thought it maybe that it would help me prepare for this role, because I knew I was going to run this year and give me sort of like an edge. And I also know, I think it was Tom who won last year's Best Speaker, and we've met before, and I've met a lot of them before, so we can sort of discuss it and they can sort of help me along.
So what's your priority going to be? Are you going to be the MYP for Carmarthenshire or also Wales?
Carmarthenshire.
Carmarthenshire. Do you have thoughts and beliefs about what the future of Wales and where does Wales stand in the current situation?
Yeah, I'm a big environmentalist personally, because I think with Wales we've got all these huge landscapes which are absolutely beautiful, and we need to help sort of protect them and do the most that we can use to, because we're very unique in Wales. We've got a beautiful coast, these lovely like forests, and I think if we can use those little scrap materials without actually like ruining them, we can actually like boost Wales up. And I was actually
talking. The environment is one of your big issues.
Yeah, and it was voted top in the BYC ballot this year for Carmarthenshire, was protect the environment. And I think it's just, and I was talking to the FSB, the Federation of Small Businesses, at Christmas time, discussing different environmental issues and how the way forward with businesses in Wales goes.
And Arwen, just quickly on that point on the environment, with the coronavirus, obviously we're seeing bluer skies, we're seeing less planes in the sky, less cars, less transport on the road, people talking about alternative modes of transport, cycling, pedestrians, changing the way we travel to work, to school and to leisure and so on. There are obviously positives that you have to take forward as an environmentalist, and that may be your key issue. But there are a lot of people, obviously, that have been brought up now, and young people who say, well, actually, I still want to travel. I still want to go to Australia on that plane 3 or 4 times a year. I want to go to New Zealand. I want to go to Spain. I want to go to Greece. You know, it comes at a price. Environmentalism comes at a price, and some of that is sacrifice. Do young people really want to forego what the people before them have enjoyed and taken part in? Do you think there's enough will for that, or do you think this is another generation that as they get older, as they have a family, will say, do you know what, let's get in the car, let's get in the van, let's travel, let's do those things?
Well, this was actually a topic which was brought up at a meeting, and I was discussing this with one of my friends on Command Chiefs Council, Sophie Banning, and she wanted to go to Ibiza, as one does around this age, and she actually decided not to go for a plane, and she was going to go interrailing because it like did a carbon setting. You know, a lot of trains have like 50% off your carbon emissions and things like that, so it's working on ways to reduce that. And she also talked about carbon setting, so you sort of make it up in a way, so you plant trees and you try and look after the bits that you do have, so if there comes a time where you can't offset it, then you can do other things to help.
So the justification, as we've seen with the royal family and other people, really is that as long as we plant trees and offset this, we can sort of do that and affect the balance, basically. It's sort of seems like it might work, and it's something that's, you know, none of us really know, do we, what the impact is going to be, what the world is going to look like in 5-10 years time as a result of this. But what we're seeing at the moment across the globe is this slowdown in the global warming to a certain extent, the impact on the environment. So do you think coronavirus, the result of the coronavirus, has some positives? We hear all about the negatives, but are there any positives you have found from that?
Oh, definitely. I mean, even if you just look at this interview, that's a perfect example, because otherwise we'd all meet up, probably taking cars, trains and otherwise. But right now we can do it from our own homes with little or no carbon emissions being released. And there's other things like this too. So instead of having to go to work every day, you can work from home. And that also helps people who find it difficult to get to work at points. as well. So we've learned so much from this small time, really.
Well, Gwenoro is a prime example of that, where he's on Zoom now. He's set up at home. We've been working on IT with Gwenoro. He's of a generation that wasn't brought up with this. Are you generally frustrated? I mean, I've been championing the use of cameras in courtrooms, in the Assembly, in Parliament, far more of this remote working, far more cost saving and so on. Are you frustrated that it's taken this long? Are you optimistic that things can change, given that you're speaking now to a former MP on Zoom from your living room, from his office, and me here? Does this buoy you with confidence and encouragement for the future?
100%. I mean, this is a perfect time for us to sort of like practice our skills on different things. And my granddad, who I love him, but he's a technophobe. He never uses the computer at all. And he did a quiz the other night on Zoom, and it was his first time using a computer in about 3 years. So it just makes you happy, really, to see that people who aren't maybe used to technology can utilize it.
During my time, it was difficult to get publicity sometimes, other than just paper media. Television back in the 70s wasn't all that great, especially Welsh television, and on and on. So you've got to make yourself heard, seen. How do you propose to go about that? How are you going to... Because my experience was, when you get to Westminster, for instance, majority are not interested in Carmarthen issues, not interested in Welsh issues. So you've got to break through there. You've got to make your stamp, make your voice heard. Do you feel you've got that?
I'm trying to. One way that we can do it is like social media, because obviously it's a big part of a lot of people's lives. Yeah. And I know during this time, my usage has gone up quite a bit. But the UK Youth Parliament actually try and utilise social media. So they are trying to build a base, really, for everyone to look at, see what you're doing, see how it is in these environments, see what other people are doing and how they can work on it. And that's a really important sort of point, so you can actually see what it's like for people who live in Carmarthenshire or who live in rural areas, which often a lot of people who live in cities don't really get to.
There is.
Yes, I wish that the systems of today was around when I was in politics, because you can reach more people, you can get across to more people, you can involve more people, and it's a great way of doing politics, and that is the way you're going to approach it.
There is only one drawback, really, in that, as I said earlier, we mentioned about the generational gap, and that a lot of elderly people do feel disconnected because they're not part of that technology. That's and there is a wide audience that aren't being reached. I know we're very big on actually reaching blind and partially sighted people through our website and our audio, because we're very aware that they don't pick up a newspaper, won't read a newspaper unless it's a Braille newspaper. Can you just give us a sort of a top 3, top 4, top 5 of the hottest issues on your sort of radar now at the moment for Carmarthenshire then as an MYP?
For me, obviously, my views can't reflect the whole Youth Parliament because we all have different issues. I think my top 3 are protect the environment, mental health, and social media, really, in a way that we can utilise it in rural areas.
Winoro?
Can I ask you then, where would you stand on what I regard as the heart of political issues in Wales? Where do you stand in relation to greater powers for Wales? Have you got views on that? You know, people are on about, is the Assembly strong enough? Is it powerful enough? Some are saying we should even disband it, all sorts of mixtures. Where would you be on the impact the Senedd is making in Wales? Have you got a view on it?
I think that the Senedd can do more, personally. I got a little bit annoyed because, you know, they changed their name from AMs to AS or NS, yes, depending. And obviously that cost a bit of money. And personally, they go through a lot of issues which England haven't, and they're at the forefront. First country to declare a climate emergency. First country to legalise 16 and 17-year-olds voting. Except for Ireland, but in the British Isles. So it does have some really good impacts, but I think that it just needs to be pushed a little further to improve where they are.
I've always held the view that the Assembly, the Senedd now, should be making more of an impact in Wales, and There are many reasons why not. Is that how you feel about it?
Yeah, that's exactly.
Do you know, you talked about the
you mentioned
voting
the voting system.
Yeah.
16-year-olds vote in Wales, I think, from the next election. That should apply to the UK, you reckon?
Yeah, it's something that the UK Youth Parliament really stand for. They did a big campaign, I think last year or the year before. And it is good because a lot of 16 and 17-year-olds that I've met, even when I was younger, they were so forward. I would talk to adults about the same things and they didn't know a thing about what they were saying at points. And a lot of them are really educated on the issues that I don't even know of yet. So I think it's important that we listen to that generational understanding and education.
You've got. Yes, I have no doubt that the generation of today and the younger generation knows far more about issues than back in my time as a 16-year-old, to be honest. And so you've got a great opportunity.
You've got Nia Griffith in Llanelli. Is she your mentor? Is that who you're sort of partner up with for your role?
I'm actually trying to partner up with all the MSs, ASs, MPs for Carmarthenshire because, you know, it's spread over 3 districts, but I've got to manage sort of all of that. So I'm actually meeting Angela Burns on the 26th and Joe Waters next month as well. So
and so with that, do you take a political line? What are your politics? I mean, are you Plaid oriented, Labour oriented, Conservative, Liberal? Having to balance that and meeting these people, they're going to have their own agendas. They're going to try and bend your ear to some of the issues that are concerning them. So how do you balance that? Where do you stand politically?
Well, under the UKYP, all your views are separate from the UK Youth Parliament because under that you're supposed to have no political alliances in a way. I personally don't actually have a party, and I know I've been told that this is kind of wrong, but in a lot of parties I agree with a lot of what they say, but then I disagree with other things. And as I couldn't vote, and I had school and other work that I needed to do, I didn't understand that I don't have to spend this time looking into the parties because at the moment I can't actually do anything.
Well, that's an interesting point because just my politics in general is that I'm not a fan of any of the parties. They don't seem to have anything that I would particularly feel confident in voting for. We seem to have for generations been supplied with Labour, Conservative, and Liberal or Plaid Cymru, and that's about it. Do you think then, I mean, I'm of a view, I don't know if this is something that you are similarly thinking of. Do you think that the time is right and that we will see the emergence of maybe more parties, newer parties, things that are far closer to the generation that you are in at the moment going forward? You know, do you think that will manifest? Because, as I say, all we've been left with at the moment, all we have are these 3 long, historic, traditional parties that we hear and see every day.
Well, I think that at the moment they have such a strong standing in society in general that new parties find it difficult to come up. But I think that eventually parties start changing. You know, you get a change of platform maybe, or their views start changing a little bit to try and keep up with the times. And I think that's mainly what's going to happen.
You see, the point is, you hit the nail on the head there, that the parties are too strong. I've held that view all my political life. Me too, I'm not too particularly strong on political parties. Parties are too strong in British politics. And the reason why they're too strong is the voting system. The voting system really makes you choose between the 2 main parties. If you vote Plaid, or if you vote Liberal, or if you vote Green, or if you vote whatever, you are on the periphery of the main battle. Do you reckon, are you a supporter of changing the voting system? Therefore, there's a chance for the newer parties, smaller parties, to progress because Parliament is unbalanced, totally unbalanced.
Well, I'm not 100% sure about the voting system, but I will have a look into it after this interview.
It's important for you as a young person.
Just explain the voting system, Gwenoro, quick, just briefly how it works.
Well, very, very briefly, the system now is you put a cross on the ballot paper, okay? The majority of MPs don't get even 35% of the people in their constituency voting for them are their MPs. Because the MP gets 35%, somebody else gets 30, somebody else gets 20, somebody else gets 10. So the majority of MPs, actually, more of the people in their constituency voted against them than for them. And that's the problem. That's the problem with our politics. It is so concentrated on the two big parties. So keep thinking and being free. Be a free agent. Be a radical and a progressive.
But that's one point that you bring up. You know, it's very sectional, and I see a lot of the Parliament debates, and I feel very often one party will say something and another party will go against it.
That's the nature of the game. Yes.
And I feel like, in a way, it would be a lot easier if we work together, and then the points can get better and better and be more useful to the public. Because it shouldn't actually be about parties, it should be about the public and the people they represent.
Do you think then the case is that what we have in effect is a disconnect from communities, from the very people they represent, and that we just don't hear from them enough, and that the establishments, the institutions are too far removed from communities like Carmarthenshire, rural West Wales? I mean, you know, most people will never ever have an interaction with their MP, AM, and certainly with their old MEP, other than the surgeries, if they want to go along to that. But again, historically, that's been done, you know, maybe in a community hall, maybe in their office or whatever. But we've seen, as a result of technology and the coronavirus, that by going online, by doing these things, they are reaching far more people. Is that something you are going to be shouting loud about and encouraging and asking them to do more of for Carmarthenshire?
Yes, there's one of the things. I've actually emailed all the MPs and ASs for Carmarthenshire and brought up this issue. I offered for a phone call or a Zoom call so we can start talking about it and almost get the ball rolling. And I can help them out with anything they want to reach the youth as well. Obviously, I won't do any party political things because of the UKYP policies, but it's just trying to get more people interacting with their MPs.
Yeah, so you're basically telling them, listen, if you want to speak to the youth, if you want to get heard, if you want to get seen, if you really want to discuss and represent us, then you should be using this. You should be getting online here. These are some of the tools and tricks. This is how you communicate with us. Is that what you're saying, really?
Yeah, and I can also say, you know, you can communicate with me because I have those platforms already in place if they want to talk. And it's just sort of, I remember my first memory of actually meeting an MP was actually near Griffiths. And I was with school on a school trip, and I remember talking, and I was like, what's an MP? Because I hadn't been taught this, and I didn't know how it worked. And this was at the start of secondary school, so I was about 11 or 12. And I just remember it being, what is that? But I always remember that.
Have you got any questions for Gwenoro now then? But before we finish, have you got any questions for him?
Oh, well, I've got one question for her as well. But you ask me first if you wish. Fine, no problem.
So what is the one biggest piece of advice that you'd give to me?
Be yourself. If you have firm views, don't be afraid to say and argue for that. Be strong. Believe in yourself. Okay? There'll be a lot of people who might wish to argue against you and to run you down. That's the nature of the political game. Be your own person. And it looks to me as if you can be your own person. And you know, stand for what you believe in. There will be people who will try and argue against you all the time. But be strong, be confident, do your research. The biggest thing I ever did was to learn to know what the issues were before speaking. I find a lot of people these days talk about a lot of things with such uneducated opinions. It's sad. But can I just ask you one question? Now, you represent Carmarthenshire, the one of the highest proportion of Welsh speakers in Wales.
Yeah.
When you meet together with the others, I doubt if half a dozen of you will be Welsh speakers. That's
No.
how it was when I was in Parliament. Out of the 650, I think about 10 of us spoke Welsh, maybe even less these days. How important is the language? And you can answer me yn siarad fi Gymraeg os ti'n moyn.
Yeah.
How important is the language to you in your stance and in your beliefs and how you view the future?
For me, Welsh has always been a part of my life. My step-grandparents taught me Welsh, spoke through me to Welsh. And I actually, my kayaking group, Errol, he speaks to me in Welsh, and I coach some kids in Welsh as well. And it's an important thing because it's right there. It's a connection for us to speak. Because who else would I talk to, you know? And it just, immediately when I'm a little bit nervous, I'm not sure what to do and I'm looking for a connection. And then someone speaks Welsh. I'm like, oh, I didn't actually siarad Cymraeg. And it just starts up a conversation immediately. And it's so important. And it gives me almost confidence to talk to people I wouldn't normally talk to.
Ydy Cymraeg yn eich iaith gyda chi?
Na, ddim I fi. Fy mam gi yn actually Saesneg.
Mae hi'n siarad Cymraeg yn wreiddiol?
Yeah.
Wedi dysgu Cymraeg I ti, efe?
Na, yr ysgol wedi... Iaith gyntaf yn yr ysgol yn siarad Cymraeg. Ond dydw I ddim wedi wneud yr aroliadau achos y coronavirus.
Na di? Oh, all right. You speak it well. You speak it well. Believe in yourself. Believe in what you stand for. Believe in Wales. Believe in the language. And don't worry about other people in their politics. You be your own person.
There we are. Sound advice from a former MP. Arwen Williams, diolch yn fawr I chi gyd. Very nice speaking to you, and good luck for the future in your role as MYP for Carmarthenshire. Bob luck.
Thank you. Diolch.
Iawn, diolch yn fawr.